Hi guys, Liz Truss has finally emerged from her fridge or whatever she was using as a hiding place following the crash of the pound a few days ago, and has given some interviews. And, well, it didn't go well. I want to let you listen to a clip of an interview she gave to BBC Leeds, where she was asked the simple question, "Where have you been?" And then in a second clip, Truss tries to blame Putin for the Bank of England intervening to protect pension funds which would have collapsed. Have a listen to this.
Good morning.
How are you? How are you doing? Have you slept well?
I have, thank you very much.
Good.
And it's great to be here on Radio Leeds.
I am really glad that you are here as well, because since Friday, since your Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng's mini-budget, the pound has dropped to a record low. The IMF has said that you should reevaluate your policies, and the Bank of England has had to spend £65 billion to prop up the markets because of what they describe as a material risk. Where have you been?
Well, I think we've got to remember the situation we were facing this winter.
No, the question was, where have you been? Now, obviously, she won't answer that because she'd have to say, I've been in hiding because I didn't want to face the wrath of the public or the media. So I hid away like Boris Johnson used to do.
We were facing a situation where people could have had to pay energy bills of up to £6,000, where inflation was increasing, and where we were looking at an economic slowdown which would have had a huge impact right across the country, including in places like Leeds. So we had to take decisive action. And that's why we took action to make sure people aren't paying a typical fuel bill of more than £2,500.
Yeah.
That's going to come in this Saturday.
That was before the mini-budget, though, Prime Minister. I'm talking about the last 4 days. Where have you been? Because we've not heard from you in the last 4 days.
Well, I'm here today on Radio Leeds talking to you.
Where have you been? Well, I'm here now. Obviously, avoiding the question. Now, she also talked about here the £2,500. This affects only people on typical usage. This is not really a cap, so it will not protect, for example, disabled people who use more energy than regular users. Now, Truss doubled down on this idea that, well, it's nothing to do with the Bank of England, it's nothing to do with brexit, it's nothing to do with the economy in general. This is all down to Vladimir Putin. Have a listen to this other clip.
We'll be facing no more than £2,500 for a typical energy bill. We've also taken action to reduce our tax burden and spur.
Yeah, but Prime Minister, with respect, that
so
is the same scripted answer you've given to every BBC local radio station this morning. You've got the Bank of England stepping in now to try and clean up a mess a government has caused. That has never happened.
We have a very, very difficult economic global situation.
It's not a global situation. Yes, there is a global problem, but the Bank of England did not intervene because of global issues. The Bank of England intervened specifically because Kwasi Kwarteng delivered a budget or a mini budget that was a disaster. The market said, how the hell are you going to pay for this? Oh, actually, you haven't said how you're going to pay for this. So we don't have confidence in the UK economy. And as a result of that, the pound dropped. And there was a real risk that pension funds would completely collapse and people would end up with no pension. That wouldn't have gone down very well with the middle class in Britain. Many Tory voters, they would realise, hey, I have no pension anymore. Why don't I have a pension? Because Kwasi Kwarteng messed up. Was he fired? No. Why wasn't he fired? Because Liz Truss treats him as an ally, or she agrees with everything he does.
Because of the war that Vladimir Putin has perpetrated in Ukraine, and countries are under pressure around the world.
This isn't Putin. This isn't just about Putin. I mean, your Chancellor on Friday opened up the stable door and spooked the horses so much you can almost see the economy being dragged behind them.
This is about Putin and the war in Ukraine. That.
Then why didn't, when you introduced your new cost of living package, why didn't the markets be spooked? Why didn't they respond in a similar manner? They didn't. because they understood that whatever borrowing you were going to do to deal with the cost of living crisis, or the energy bills, I should say, was short term. This was not. This was a tax cut for the long term. And the market said, you can't pay for this. How are you going to pay for this? And you had nothing. Kwasi Kwarteng would not release the estimates or the analysis.
That is why we are.
So the Bank of England's intervention yesterday was the fault of Vladimir Putin, was it?
What I was saying is it's very difficult and stormy times in the international markets. And of course, the Bank of England is independent. It takes the action it needs to take. And it is responsible for interest rates, and it is responsible for financial stability. But it's
pathetic. The Bank of England intervened because the government messed up. Can you imagine if the Bank of England was not independent and had to take its marching orders from Liz Truss? It wouldn't have intervened. And then what would have happened? Pensions would have collapsed. And a whole range of other problems would have arrived. I've said this in another video. What Liz Truss needs to do is she needs to sack Kwasi Kwarteng, but she won't do that probably because she doesn't realise, or she's ignoring the problem. She believes if we ignore it, it will go away. If we can just distract the public for another few weeks, we'll be okay. And you can distract the public, but you can't distract the markets. They will decide. They are the holders of power here. You know, you can play games with them, but at the end of the day, they will decide your fate. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.